Welcome back to the Wadass, or the Workshop of Dreams and stuff. Something a little bit different today. Something that if you follow me on my Facebook account, you'll know that I've been after for a while. And I suppose, like anything, it's a little bit of a lesson in karma and be good and treat others like you want to be treated. Long story short, I've been racing for a long time, since 1990, I think 1995, so that's approaching 30 years now, and over my time I always hark back to people ask you what was your favourite car, what was this, what was that, and don't get me wrong, today's modern cars are brilliant, technically superb, lovely to build, you know, and great on track. I still hark back to my favourite car being my Predator. Northern Ireland, where I'm from, is a very small, close-knit community. So I set about trying to find my car. It was an XK98 that ran, I think it was on its third chassis by the time I sold it. Dear knows how many prop shafts, and I got pretty good at building gearboxes after a while. So long story short, I started asking the people who I raced with at the time if they knew where my car was. I couldn't remember who I sold it to. We had there were days where, don't get me wrong, I loved the car to bits, but there were days where there were days where I was so frustrated with it. And now I realise that it was, technically it probably wasn't as good then as I should have been, and I made mistakes with the car and made it unreliable and bits and pieces like that. But I can't remember where it sold to. I reached out to a friend of mine who, he started as a youngster at the club. Him and his dad were racing, and I helped out. I remember me and Alan helped out as best we could with him. Sort of pointed him in the direction that he needed to go with stuff. I mean, I was, you know, and he did. He sort of followed what we were running and everything else, and we helped out where we could. And he did. He bought a few cars off me. Like, he still has my double X, low C, I think one of my triple X's, and other bits and pieces like that. And I thought, I'll just message Graham and see, on the off chance, does he know where my Predator was? Because we ran, I remember running the DTMs and the T1s with him back in the day when touring cars started to take off. I just thought maybe I'd sold him my Predator. I just were chatting, talking about the old times, messing about, and he didn't have my Predator. He couldn't remember who bought it in the end. But we just talked about old times and carrying on, and like, times have moved on now. Obviously, we're both adults now, and adults. And yeah, I'm just chatting away, and he says, "Look, I've a load of bits and pieces sitting in my attic, my dad's attic. You know, I've one of your old cars, of this, that, and the other." We're just chatting away, and I said to him, "Look, come on to our race meeting. Let's, come on, let's get you bugged back." So it's went from him just having stuff in the garage to coming back and running with us, hopefully next Friday, actually. But at the end of the conversation, he goes, "Is it just your car you're after, or are you just trying to scratch the Predator itch?" And I said, "Well, it's a bit of both. I'd love my old car back, but I would be open to finding another Predator." And he goes, "Well, I have something in a box." "Right, what have you got in the box?" He goes, "Well, I have an X11 that I never ran." Which, for those that know, was the last generation of Predator. It wasn't built by 10th Technology, but built by Team Extreme but using all the same philosophy. I think a lot of the same molds, but just little refinements here and there in it as well. I mean, this is truly what you would refer to as close to a unicorn as you could get. Anyway, we chatted for a while. I know this needs a few parts. It needs a diff out drive in the back. It needs a diff screw, and it needs a general tidy up. Silly little things like it's been in a box for 10 years, so the screw heads all need replaced and stuff like that. But I mean, the car is largely complete and in just unreal condition. I mean, this looks, if somebody told you this was a car that was just on display in a shop, they'd have to believe you. There's one mark in the chassis there, and some of the anodizing has started to fade, but I mean, really, we are being just silly. I mean, just look at that thing. I mean, these were, the Predator story is always a good one. They certainly started out as a fragile car with the composite, the carbon chassis in the middle, the two gearboxes either side, XT I think they were called, and they were delicate then. By the time I got involved with them was an XK98, which had all the M4 hardware and the wishbones. And genuinely, it was quite a tough car. I campaigned mine at the time over probably 3 or 4 seasons. I did gearboxes. Everybody did. You get quite good at rebuilding diffs. Did gearboxes in it, and broke very little else. I had threaded a chassis, one of the rocker mounts here. I'd become dislodged in an accident and couldn't get threaded again. Knowing now what I know, I would helicoil that and get that in, and get that redone with a metal insert. And I broke a chassis. We used to remove this support bracket here because it did increase rear grip quite a bit, especially for indoors. I handed it to one of my best mates from racing, Alan Bickerstaff, who some of you might know from touring car circles now, and he proceeded to outbrake himself at the end of a straight with a 10-turn modified in, spun the car backwards into the wall and broke the chassis along here. I remember watching in horror as the car remained against the wall and the rear gearbox just bounced itself across the track. The reality was the chassis wasn't expensive, prop shaft wasn't expensive, and it's one of those stories that we still laugh about 27 years later. Yeah, he broke my finger. Same track actually. That's neither here nor there. But yeah, back to this. I mean, these were, when they came out, just so different to anything else. They were, I mean, 4-wheel drive cars were a bit cumbersome at the time. They were a bit bulky. They were a bit, if you think back to what else there was, this was out at the time of a Cat 95, and you know, the Yokomo MBX thing. I mean, we used to refer to it as a flat brick. And these were just sleek as felt, and they still, this amount of time later, I still haven't driven anything that feels like a Predator. Instant response, how low it is, how responsive it is. You know, the car actually, from what I remember, jumps really, really well until you break the front wing, and then they're terrible in the air. People who haven't driven one think the front wing does nothing. It definitely does. It probably doesn't. I don't think it delivers practical downforce, but it definitely stabilizes the car in the air. It's only when you've broken one mid-run will you ever know that. So yeah, they are just unreal. I've promised Graham, who I bought this off, that I will run it. He has given me a box of spares and an original instruction manual in there, setup sheets, all the information that we'll ever need. It's, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better example, you really couldn't. And here again, the original box that the car came with, a set of white wheels, which is good because I mean, what were they thinking? Those carbon bits and pieces. The I hate to say it, the proper front wing, proper black plastic front wing, loads of springs and bits and pieces, rear springs, gearbox bits. I need to get some new ones of those. All the shims and all the rest of it. Not that we'll ever use them, but wishbones. I mean, so much stuff in there. This took me out there. This, I don't know where this originally came from, but it's an old box for Predator springs and pistons, and I recognise, it's hard to see on camera, but I recognise the writing in that. That's one of the top guys that used to run 10 Technology back in the day. I remember I recognise his handwriting from that. Yeah, the original pistol box when we were running Predators back in the day. That's a rear wing from Alan's Predator. Again, back 30 years old, painted in Pactor, looks like. I would have painted that years and years ago. But yeah, I mean, I just thought I'd take 2 minutes and, for want of a better term, show off what we have here. Just a spectacular example of a spectacular car. And yeah, can't wait to get a light restoration on it. To be fair, the X11 was set to run lipos and brushless, so again I'll put a I'm not going to go silly with power unit. It'll be built properly. It'll definitely be built at the back. It will largely just be displayed, but it'll go out for the occasional run. Just look at it. It's hard to believe that design's now over 30 years old. Still looks incredible. Yeah, looking forward to getting this built, restored. Can't have a plain white shell on it. It's going to have to speak to the guys at Penguin RC and get a replacement shell and wing kit for it. Yeah, and we go from that. I mean, what a spectacular bit of kit. But yeah, this is one that's going to. I'm not a huge fan of leaving stuff sitting for display, but I mean, at what point is it a work of art? Yeah, thanks for joining me. Like I said, I get a couple of quick close-up shots of this as well for you to pop into the video, and yeah, keep you up to date with how the restoration's going. Hopefully get a video of it running a couple of laps soon. But as usual, if you want to see more, subscribe, leave any comments below that you want to leave. If anybody knows of an X11 rear diff, I would be delighted to hear from them. Otherwise I'm going to have to go back into old stock of Predator stuff and see what we can make fit. But yeah, like I say, thanks for joining me. Subscribe, comment, like, do all the good stuff, and we'll keep you up to date with what's going on. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.